Have you ever wondered how you can clean up your Pinterest account and get it optimized for the search engine? Today, I'm gonna go over my 5-step process for cleaning up your Pinterest account. Really quickly, I'm Emily Vales. I'm a Pinterest marketing and ad strategist, and for the past 4 years, I've helped business owners increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. And just in the past 6 months alone, I have increased my own Pinterest traffic by over 1,000%. So today, let's quickly talk about, first of all, why you would want to get your Pinterest account fully optimized for the search engine. Well, because Pinterest is a search engine, you want to make sure that you have fully optimized your entire account so that you can be discovered by your perfect person. So when Pinterest users come to the platform, the first action they are typically performing is going up to the search bar and they're typing in what they want ideas, inspiration for. Maybe they have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution. And so in order for you to be discovered by that correct audience, you have to understand what keywords they're actively searching for. So before you actually touch anything on your account, I highly recommend that the first step you take is performing in-depth keyword research. Then, once you find out what keywords your audience is actively searching for, then you can start using those keywords as you clean up your Pinterest account. So before we move on, you might be like, whoa, wait a second, Emily, how do I understand what keywords my audience is actively searching for? So that is a great question. If you are wondering how to actually do that keyword research and what that looks like, because pro tip, there's multiple methods that you can use and perform when you're doing that keyword research, I highly recommend checking out my other YouTube video, which is over the 4 pillars for creating your Pinterest strategy, specifically pillar number 1, where I go over how to do keyword research. That is the first pillar of your keyword strategy because, in my opinion, it's the most important pillar because keywords are truly the backbone for your Pinterest marketing strategy. So be sure to check out that other YouTube video. So we have talked about step 1. Let's say now you have done your keyword research and you understand what keywords are going to connect you to your person. Now, how do you use those keywords on your account? So for step 2, what you are going to do, the first thing I want you to do when you are cleaning up your Pinterest account, I want you to just simply first optimize your profile name. I know, it sounds super simple, but it is very powerful. And the reason why it's so powerful to just optimize your profile name is because your profile can actually surface in people's Pinterest searches. So when they are actively searching for example, Pinterest marketing, if I have optimized my profile name, my profile could actually come up in those searches. Not to mention when people are doing their searches on Pinterest, they can actually filter their searches by profiles as well. So maybe when somebody's doing their search, they might want to filter their search by profiles because they maybe want to follow a handful of Pinterest marketing experts. So they want to see what all profiles are actively serving and creating Pinterest marketing content, just for example. So for me, when I'm optimizing my profile name, I have put my business name, which is simply just Emily Vales. But the thing is, Emily Vales doesn't really tell people who I am or what I do. So for my profile name, it actually says Emily Vales, there's a bar to separate, and then I have Pinterest marketing and strategy. So Pinterest marketing, that's 2 words. Those are really the main pillar keywords I want to be ranking for my niche. So I have included those within my profile name, and then that helps make my profile more searchable. So that is step 2 as you are cleaning up your Pinterest account. Now we are moving on to step 3. And because you have this beautiful database of keywords that you have already created, it should be seamless to optimize your profile bio. So Pinterest gives you the option to include your bio, which a lot of people are including there, basically their elevator pitch. So maybe in 15 to 30 seconds, what you would tell people when they're asking who you are, what you do, and who you serve on the platform. But you don't want to just write any elevator pitch or any bio, you want to make sure that it is optimized specifically for Pinterest and Pinterest searches. So this is a great place to not just tell who you are, what you do, and who you serve, but a place to include those key words. Now, I highly recommend that you make this bio very reader friendly, make it sound natural. Don't just stuff keywords in there. So keep that in mind, that you always want your language to sound natural and write as though a real person or a pinner is actually reading those, and don't just optimize it for the Pinterest artificial intelligence, right? So that was step 3, updating your profile bio. Now for step 4, this is a little bit of a heftier process, but I want you to go through and clean up your boards. So when I say clean up your boards, I want you to, number 1, I want you to assess what type of boards you have. So when you are looking at your boards, you need to think, does this board, do the pins on this board, do they serve my audience? Do they tell people more about who I am and what I do as a brand, or does it not serve them? So for example, my business is about Pinterest marketing, and I offer done-for-you services, I offer education, and so my board about kids' sensory activities, that doesn't tell people anything about me or who I serve. So yes, I enjoy pinning to that board, but the public doesn't need to see that board. So as I'm performing this step number 4 to this cleanup process, when I'm looking at my boards, I am actually going to make secret any boards that don't pertain to my niche and are not really serving my audience, because that could become a little bit confusing to not only people who are coming to my profile to learn about Pinterest marketing, but it can also confuse the Pinterest algorithm when you're telling Pinterest who you are and what type of content you're creating and the type of person you are serving. So it's not that you can't have those personal boards that you enjoy pinning to, but you just want to make them secret so that the public then cannot see them. So with this step number 4, because like I mentioned, it is a little bit of a heftier process, we are having some sub-steps in here. So that sub-step number 1 was just making secret any boards that do not pertain to your niche or your audience. It's what's not going to serve them, you want to make secret. So for this sub-step number 2 within step number 4, so you can think of these as bullets. So for number 2, I want you to look at your board titles. So we've already cleaned up the type of boards we have, making sure that any that do not serve our audience are now secret. So for this sub-step number 2, I want you to optimize your board titles. So when people are thinking about what type of board titles they have, it can be a little bit tricky, because I see people go back and forth between, should I have really broad board titles? Should I have really specific board titles? When you are doing this cleanup, I want you to find this balance between being fairly specific, but not too specific, if that makes sense. So for example, if you are a food blogger, to just have a board called dinner recipes, those 2 pillar keywords, those are gonna be really saturated keywords. Not to mention, you might have hundreds and hundreds of dinner recipes, which is great, but think about how you can narrow that down a little bit more and get a little bit more specific with your board titles. So how could you break up that really broad topic into more specific boards, into more specific topics? So boards are basically your content buckets on Pinterest. And so when you are thinking about naming your boards and having those board titles, you want to think about these content buckets that you are creating content for consistently. So when I say that you don't want your boards to be too specific, if you only have a tiny bit of content over a specific topic, it might not really be enough to serve a purpose for an entire board, if that makes sense. So for me, some of my boards are Pinterest sales funnel, Pinterest SEO. I do even have an entire board just over idea pins, but that's because I'm regularly creating content and blog posts. I have a whole course all about idea pins. So you can see there, that is very specific. But because I do create so much content over idea pins, I am regularly creating pins for that, regularly pinning to that board, so it really makes sense for me to have that specific board. Some things that I want you to think about when you are cleaning up those boards, maybe you are also taking time to clean up some of those titles and think about how you could take a really broad board and make it into multiple boards that are a little bit more specific. And one of the reasons why it is going to serve you to have a little bit more specific of boards is because it will be easier to rank for those boards. And when you are thinking about optimizing your account for the search engine, your boards can actually come up in Pinterest searches. People can filter their Pinterest searches by boards. And this is crazy. I have actually seen multiple times people's Pinterest boards coming up in Google searches. That is gold. That's amazing. So, huge reason to really optimize and have strong board titles. So when you are thinking about this subset of steps within this step number 4 of cleaning up our Pinterest boards, yes, it is a little bit complicated, but this is such an important step of cleaning up your Pinterest account, because when people come to your Pinterest profile, they are going to be seeing these boards, and it really gives them an overview of who you are, what you're creating. And like I said, it's really helping you with being able to rank on Pinterest and then also Google as well. So now that you have your board titles cleaned up a bit, let's go to that third step. Let's clean up your Pinterest board descriptions. I want you, and this can be a little time intensive, but it's such an important part of your Pinterest strategy, is having your account fully optimized. I want you to go to every single one of your boards and make sure that you have a strong board description. So you might be wondering, what do I write for a board description? Make it natural. You are going to tell people what they are finding on that board, what type of content is going to be pinned to that board on a regular basis. It is just a great place to tell people what they're finding and include lots of keywords. Now, with board descriptions, Pinterest allows you to use quite a few characters, and it's not uncommon that I have seen people where they're using their board description to just cram in as many keywords as they want. It looks weird, it feels spammy. I highly recommend that you write naturally and just in a very natural way. Like I said, write board descriptions that are really reader friendly and that you are not just doing it to check off that box for the Pinterest algorithm that you are including those keywords there. So cleaning up all of your board descriptions. So that means making sure that you not only have a description for every single board, but they are really great optimized descriptions as well. And remember, if you're wondering, Emily, what keywords do I put on those specific boards? Think about that very first step we took where we did that in-depth keyword research. So keep referring back to that. That's why it's so important to have that document that you have created or that spreadsheet where you have all those pillar and long tail keywords that you want to be ranking for your business. And if you feel a little confused with some of the language I'm using right now as I talk about pillar keywords, long tail keywords, be sure to go back to that video that I mentioned already about pillar number 1 into doing your keyword research. So now that we have taken step number 4 with cleaning up your Pinterest account, the last step I want you to take is to clean up your pins. Now, I don't want you to spend too long doing this, but as you are cleaning up those boards, you've optimized the titles, you've looked at the descriptions, go ahead and quickly do a survey over your pins. And like I said, I don't recommend spending too much time doing this, but if you see any content where you want to move it around, sometimes when I have looked at my boards, I'm like, oh, I don't know how that pin got to that board. It's totally irrelevant. Then you can move those pins around, and there's actually an option with your pins where you can edit it and you can move it to a different board. Like I said, I don't recommend spending tons of time doing this, but that can be something helpful to do, and just do a quick survey of that as you are cleaning up those boards. I also want you to pay attention to, with this step number 5, and this being the last step, that you are paying attention to the ratio of pins on your boards. So when you have your boards created and you are pinning to them regularly, are most of the pins on the boards you have your pins or somebody else's? It's not wrong to pin a pin that does not belong to you, meaning it's another Pinterest creator's pin, if that pin, is relevant to the specific board it's pinned to, but when you are pinning somebody else's pin, you are helping spread their content. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very nice thing to do. But at the same time, that's not really helping you. So let's say you have a board and when you were doing a quick survey of the pins on there, you're realizing all of the pins, or the majority of the pins on this board, are really pins from other creators, and I don't really create that much content for this specific board. That might be an indication that you can either make that board secret, maybe even archive that board if it's no longer serving you, your brand, your audience. So just pay attention to that, because it's not that it's wrong to pin occasionally pins from other people, but just keep in mind, I don't really recommend doing that long term, especially in the beginning. If a Pinterest account is new and the Pinterest creator or the business owner doesn't have a lot of content yet, it can be helpful to just put some pins out there on the boards. Tell Pinterest what your boards are about by pinning other people's content. But the longer you're on Pinterest, you really want to move away from that, because it's just not really a great strategy, because like I said, you're driving traffic to other people's websites, to their blogs, to maybe their YouTube, and that's not really helping your business. So just keep in mind, it's okay to occasionally do that, but I don't recommend that really being something that you're doing long term. So that's a great thing to pay attention to though, as you are doing a quick survey of your pins and cleaning up your account. So we have just wrapped up step number 5 for cleaning up your Pinterest account. Now I know there was a lot in this video and you have a lot to go take action on, but I hope that you found this helpful. And if there are some things in here that maybe felt a little confusing as far as creating your Pinterest strategy, I do highly recommend checking out that 4-part series where I go over my 4 pillars for creating a Pinterest strategy. That is going to give you a really strong foundation with your Pinterest marketing strategy. So be sure to check this out. What you can do that would be so helpful, and I would love for you to do this, I would love for you to like this video, and please let me know in the comments how I can serve you. I love when people ask questions, because then it helps me with understanding what you need and how I can best serve you with your Pinterest strategy so you can be successful on the platform. Don't forget to also subscribe to this channel so you get next week's video as well. I hope you found this helpful, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Bye for now.